Hi, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm Angela O'Hare, your favorite Las Vegas realtor. And I have, of course,
I'm Rob Howe, rockstar realtor with Elite Realty.
and we barely made it with the skin or barely made it on time. So today I have my studio door open. So I'm going to have a bunch of animals coming and checking to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, Ozzy had to come upstairs and he will make a cameo, of course, because he will want to sit in between Rob and I.
Yeah.
Here he goes. And then we got a mocher. So sorry, guys, but okay.
No need to apologize for the pets.
So let's talk for a minute while I get this fatso up here. Come here, buddy.
All right.
Come on.
Well,
Come on.
blah blah. So we're gonna talk about today competing with multiple offers because, well, the market is kind of getting back to that. It really never stopped completely, but it's we need to get a toothbrush on that one. But it really is ramping up again. So that is why we want to talk about how you compete. How do you, as you're a buyer out there, how do you deal with that? Right.
The best laid plans. It's always his fault because if he was on time, then we wouldn't be scrambling. Yes. Okay. So I wanted to do this video because being a listing agent, being a buyer's agent, we are seeing it on both sides. And I thought this was an important topic to go over because we are seeing the market is cray right now. I mean, it is absolutely nutso. So the point of the video is to go over what we're seeing in the market and also give you guys tips on how to try to make the best offer forward, right?
Yeah, just prepare your mindset for what you're going to deal with a little bit out there.
And so the number one thing, I've had quite a few listings lately, which I normally don't get, but the number one thing that I've noticed is investors.
Okay.
Investors are out to play and they're pretty aggressive. And my last listing, we had 6, 7 multiple offers, 3 of which were from investors who wanted to buy to make it into a rental home.
Sounds about right.
Yes. So the investors are what's hurting the average Joe, right?
They're definitely one of the, and
that's one of the culprits, of course, but the main thing is competing with all these investors.
Yeah. And you could break down the different types of investors. It's not just one kind of investor.
Right.
You know,
and most of these are like open door offer pad.
Is that what you're seeing a lot of? Yeah.
A few of them, some of them say that they're going to turn them into rentals. However, I think they're going to sit on them and wait for the market to even go crazier, sell it in a few months and make more money.
Yeah. I mean, they could do a number of things if they want to, because there's going to be some opportunity,
right,
with property.
Let us know in the comments what you think of what's going on with the real estate market. Are you competing with multiple offers? Are you a buyer right now in 2022? Not just Las Vegas. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah. I'd like to hear from anybody who's using any, the different financing that you're using too.
Yes, and we'll get into the different financing options. But my number one topic was investors. Then number 2 is multiple offers.
Yeah.
Okay. If the home is nice, priced decently, and in a great location, it's getting multiple offers. It's getting gobbled up that weekend. Lots of showings, right?
Yeah.
And getting over asking price.
Yeah. That key part is if it's priced, well, it's getting over asking. And if it's ready to go, move-in ready type of property, maybe has some upgrades. Oh gosh.
Well, prime example, I had a listing last week in the Sky Canyon Providence area in the Northwest. We listed it for $470,000. It was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2.5 bathroom house, 20 1,000 plus change square feet with a loft, highly updated, 470 listed. We went under contract at 508.
Not a surprise. I saw the listing and I said, this is going to get snapped up.
And another new thing that's come up in the past, before, like as agents, as buyers agents, we would call the listing agent to see if there were multiple offers. And in the past, the buyer or the listing agent could say, yeah, we have multiple offers. Couldn't really disclose how many multiple offers, or couldn't ever disclose the amount of the multiple offers. But now in the listing agreement, if the seller agrees, we can disclose the listing price and how many offers.
You can, well, not that you can't disclose the offer price, right?
Yes, you can. It's a new thing in the listing agreement. Who wants to give a good scolding to Mr. Rob Howe?
Yeah. No, I don't think that's how that reads.
Yep.
Okay.
I took a CE class on it too, and they talked about it. Neil Schwartz, the whole big
Yeah.
CE guy, he talked about it.
Really?
Sorry. Give us a second, folks, but I want some clarity on that.
So yeah, I mean, I suppose, you know, like I don't like it.
I like it because, you know what, quite frankly, when I had questions this weekend, I wasn't skirting around things. I was open, honest, and told them the way it is. I mean, there's pros and cons, obviously, to disclosing it, but
well, there's major cons.
So, one, seller does or does not authorize broker to disclose the existence of multiple offers to purchase. Okay.
That
so
is
then
fine.
2, seller does or does not authorize broker to disclose the offer price and terms.
Wow. That just added? That was just revision 821.
I don't know when it was just added.
It had to have been just added.
So can we say a face burn?
I honestly don't like it, but hey, you know what? That's fine. I guess we're gonna do that. So you as a buyer, you know now that you put your offer in, and you put in this nice heavy offer, and all the seller has to do is say, yeah, I agree that I'll allow the listing agent to tell other buyers what your offer was.
Right.
And now somebody just comes in and beats your offer. Boo. Don't like it.
There's pros and cons to it. It's good for your seller.
I can't believe
it's a pro for the seller.
I can't believe they're allowing it.
I don't know. I thought it was great this weekend when I had the multiple offers. I was up front. I guess because maybe it's greedy and trying to drive up the offers.
It's to me, the offers that come in are should be private between the buyer that is putting in the offer and this selling agent and the seller. That is, that shouldn't be public information. It's basically turning it into public information, whatever your offer was.
Right.
I don't. This has always been for going on 14 years now, and my mother, who's been in business for much longer, since 76. This has been the way it's been. You can't tell people what the terms and all these things. I mean, I think it's mind blowing. And I just did a listing agreement. So I wonder if mine wasn't updated, because I can guarantee I didn't have that question on that listing agreement.
Yeah. Do you do templates in your?
Yeah,
it shouldn't have let you upload the old listing agreement if you use the templates.
Yeah, it'll remove the old one.
Right.
So I don't know.
There's pros and cons, but we're not going to go against or discuss the pros and cons.
It gives me a really, really bad feeling, and I think it just means that our predictions are going to be even more right, because the market's going to keep going up and up.
Yeah.
Hey, I can get an offer and just tell people now what it is.
Right. And so then with multiple offers, oftentimes in the past, when you got multiple offers, then we would do what's called a multiple counter offer and counter all these people. But what I'm noticing is that in the notes, agent to agent remarks, produce your highest and best offer. Most people aren't even doing multiple counter offers anymore. Which
is, I think, another silly thing. I think that you should see that. Here's the thing. I actually believe that you get more money with mystery. You get more money with being a seller with mystery. Now, that being said, being able to just tell somebody that here's the amount and you got to beat that, sure, it sounds like that's easy. I can just get more money. But if you leave it mysterious and a buyer really wants that property, sometimes they'll go way above what you think what you think they might go above.
Yeah, I mean, when you're taking a listing, those are the topics you need to discuss with the seller if they want to disclose it or not disclose it. I mean, ultimately, it's up to the seller what they want to do.
I
And
mean,
you can give the best advice to
it's
them
easier,
on your opinion.
It's honestly easier as a listing agent. It just is. It's like, hey, I can tell you now. Here's the price. Beat it.
Right. All right. So we got the highest and best offer. I took a little notes on what I wanted to discuss. Even the homes that have been sitting on the market for 30 days or more are getting snapped up right now. I mean, things are just crazy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's happening is because some of the good, better properties are getting so much attention and just going so quickly, buyers are getting very frustrated and they just have to get into something. I mean, you have different motivations. If somebody's got a time frame they've got to get in on, I mean, they just have to get something. So sometimes stuff that's would be a little bit more, not as desirable as just getting taken. People are saying, fine, I'll take it.
Yeah. And so that goes to when you're producing your highest and best offer. What does that look like? Okay. Are you financially able to produce as high as you can? And then also what's called waive the appraisal contingency. And basically, if you guys don't know what appraisal contingency is, the appraisal contingency is there to protect you as a buyer. For example, my listing was listed for $470. It was offered at, say, $500, but the buyers did not waive the appraisal contingency. So when the home appraises, it can come out three different ways, right? It can appraise above list price, at list price, or below list price. And if it appraises below list price, that's when the buyer and seller can renegotiate the terms or ask the buyer to pay the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So what we're seeing now is a lot of the buyers are waiving the appraisal contingency and willing to fork out the money to pay the difference, even if it's $50,000, $100,000, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So when you're a buyer, you need to be prepared. Are you willing to waive that appraisal contingency?
Yeah.
More so, your offer will get looked at if that appraisal contingency is waived.
Yeah, it just means it's guaranteed money to the seller.
Right.
It means whatever that offer amount is what they're getting. Plain and simple. But for the buyer, there's some uncertainty of what you're going to pay above the appraisal.
Right.
So that's cash out of your pocket. It's one of the reasons why the market's actually very strong, because so many people are putting hard cash. These aren't clearly going back to the prior to the crash.
Right.
The appraisers would just magically have a new value that they could get to. It wasn't like somebody had to pay cash to bridge that gap, because if an appraiser goes out and they can't find the comparables to say that value is where that contract is, then they may not want to
pay the difference.
They may not want to push that value, and then now the buyer has to pay that difference.
Right. And another thing you can do is, I had another listing that we had listed at $565. We got an offer for $590 where the buyer was willing to pay up to $25,000 above appraised value. So if it appraised at $550, they would get $575, if it, and so forth. So that was a nice little cushion.
Yeah,
well.
I feel that's more responsible. I call it putting a cap on your not just leaving it open ended, because if you have this is basically the appraiser is going out there. They're human. They're going to make a judgment in some cases.
Right.
Of course, they're using information. Data that they're picking up on to make that evaluation. But some one appraiser might have it $10,000 or $20,000 different. You never know, and especially the higher price range that you go into, it could be a larger amount. And I've been surprised where they actually appraised it and nobody had to pay anything over it. But capping it off is the more responsible way, especially if it's like, here's the list price and here's what you're offering. You're just covering that gap.
Right.
And a lot of times that'll satisfy the seller. And the only thing to be aware of is that somebody could come along and outright waive it.
Right. And that's
yeah.
what people, I don't know if this is the same meaning as escalation clause. Is that the same type of thing? A lot of people talk about, can we put an escalation clause? If anyone knows what an escalation clause, Danny Fee, you may know if you're still watching. I don't know exactly what that means. If it reaches a certain point, then you escalate. I don't know exactly what it means. It's a terminology that a lot of people in California use.
Yeah, it wouldn't be something we're using a lot, but yeah, let's see. I probably you talk. I'll figure something out.
All right. So be prepared to pay over asking. And we went over waiving appraisal contingencies. Now, oftentimes what I notice is if you are a finance buyer, but you're putting more than half down, what I notice is oftentimes, especially in a conventional loan, if you put more than half down, typically the home doesn't get appraised.
If you wait, well, you could. So the lender could
waive the appraisal.
Waive the appraisal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you're putting, you're a solid buyer and you put more than half down on the property.
Yeah, they're basically saying there's enough equity there. We don't
Right.
have to do an appraisal.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So an escalation clause is, and this is going to happen. There's actually different ways that you could say this, but it's written into the purchase offer that the offer automatically increases your purchase price by a certain amount above competing offers. Okay, this is actually something that is along the lines of not ethical, and you have to be very careful about doing. That's not in the contract. They haven't changed that. There are agents doing it. And I think maybe in California, it's maybe they allow it. Here, it is not something that I have done a CE class where they were like, yeah, you got to be very careful about doing these escalation clauses where you just go in and say, I'll offer this and $1,000 over anything anybody else offers, right? Yeah, like what he's saying there. But that there are some, there's some issues with that, and you got to be careful about doing that as a buyer's agent. I don't think that it's ethical to me.
So I'll read what Danny says, just in case you view this video after the live broadcast. It says, yes, there are escalation clauses being written out there. Some of them automatically bid $1,000 over the next highest offer, but listing agent must prove other offer. Okay, makes sense. So that's what an escalation clause is.
Okay, yeah. So is he an agent in California?
Danny's an agent with KW.
Okay.
Keller Williams, Summerlin area.
Yeah. So the must prove other offer. Now that makes sense with the idea that you can tell people what the other offer is.
Right.
Before that would not make sense because you're not allowed to show what your offers are, so you couldn't prove necessarily what the other offer was.
True.
You certainly weren't compelled to do so. But this is where it got into some gray areas. And now maybe escalation clauses actually will make sense because you can ethically do them. I don't know. I've always been told that they are, you want to be careful about those.
Yeah, I always tell my clients, I don't know what they are, so we're not doing it. I'm just kidding. I know I should. I don't know. We should investigate if it's something that we can do.
Certainly. Yeah. I specifically remember, sometimes, you're going to have one CE class, I'm going to have another, and we find out things on one end and the other, but specifically
just like appraisals, two appraisers can appraise the same house. They're both going to come up with different numbers.
Yeah. They sometimes have different perspectives, whatever. And there is a human factor. So,
yeah. All right. So next I want to talk about the different type of loans types when purchasing a home that you wanted to talk about. The first one is VA loans. I'm seeing a lot of VA buyers. Thanks, to the VA buyers. It's going to be a tough market for those people doing FHA and VA loans.
Yeah.
With competition.
Yeah, more on the FHA side. I think the VA has, if as long as the sellers haven't got these ideas that VAs are so.
I accepted a VA offer. I was working with one client. We put in, I kid you not, 5 or 6 offers. He's a VA. You're doing a VA loan and rejection. But finally, we got our offer accepted. But one of the offers that did get accepted with my VA buyer, we mentioned this in a previous video, we had what's called a Tidewater. So the house was listed for 335. We offered 345. The house appraised for 330. So my client was willing to pay up to the $5,000 difference above appraised value.
Okay.
So it became a Tidewater,
yeah.
even though this client was paying over half in down payment, even though he's doing a VA, he was paying more than half.
Mhm.
The VA loan did not override and approve
The appraisal. No.
So then my client still has to pay that difference, which is actually $4,500. But it was Tidewater, so the listing agent had to provide proof of what the value is of the home and why we came up at 345.
So you basically can contest the appraisal,
right?
It's basically that's what it is.
The VA appraiser won't. It's at a standstill until you contest it as the listing agent.
Mhm.
Then once you provide the proof, then they're going to reassess it and tell you what the value is.
Yeah, basically contesting the appraisal.
Right.
It's kind of a harsh way to say it, I guess. So Tidewater is nicer. And that's specifically for VA. That's why they call it. It's specifically
right.
A term used in VA loans.
Right. And then being a first-time home buyer, utilizing the down payment assistance program, I think you may have a hard time in this market right now to buy a home.
Yeah, especially without any reserve cash. I mean, that seems to be
I mean, if they're getting down payment assistance, they're probably more than likely not going to have reserve
definitely
cash.
not. Oh, sorry, I totally missed that you mentioned down payment assistance. Down payment assistance is like gone extinct right now. I mean, you maybe have a chance in certain areas. That's kind of how it goes. Like maybe I don't know, parts of town that have a little bit higher crime, might want to say. It's the nice way to put it. It's just where you're gonna find, I don't know, you might be able to find some availability in some of these areas. There is something good to that, which is that people are going into some of these areas that had a little more high crime and a little more rundown, and people are buying the homes and fixing them up in those areas. So they're getting
revitalizing.
Yeah, they're getting
the
revitalized, and people are saying, okay, this is where we have to root down. Then we'll root down here and we'll make it nice.
Right. Exactly. And last on that to go over was, don't give up. Don't get defeated. You may have to put in a few offers.
Yeah.
Until an offer finally gets accepted.
I call them practice swings. You're gonna take a few practice swings until you connect.
Right.
And just the way I think about it too is the universe will always put you where you belong. I know it's a little hippie thing but it's true.
Right.
It's very true. And
it wasn't meant to be.
I'm sure I've mentioned to you stories of people literally crying to me about losing a property, not being able to get it.
Right.
And then, a week later we land one that they're just so thankful they didn't get the other one.
Right.
It's like, whoa, roller coaster.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. So you got to hang in there. You got to have look, I think the reason why that people will hang in there is because there's so much motivation. Right. I mean, people are doing their darndest to get out of having to rent.
What's the number one motivation besides getting out of renting?
Well,
in your opinion?
Moving, relocation.
Yeah. And then what else?
Renting, relocation,
interest rates.
Yeah, sure.
I think a lot of people are hitting the ground running this year before the Feds increase interest rates for the first quarter.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. It's a combination movement here.
Right.
But I do think the overarching motivations have to do with just skyrocketing rents and people relocating.
Right. And then low inventory too.
Because, yes, but those motivations really create people to have to deal with what they have to deal with. In other words, the interest rate could still go up a little bit, and they would still say it's still more affordable and better
than renting.
The alternative that I'm dealing with. So these are the highest priority. And you have the investors, which they're definitely, some of them are keyed in on interest rate, but they're also keyed in on putting their money somewhere. And they see such a value in real estate right now.
Right.
And with inflation and other things,
stock market.
Yeah. And those rent again comes back into play.
Yep.
If I'm going to be an investor and I want to rent, well, clearly get in while it's hot, get a property and rent it for a high dollar. Great.
Right.
Not only that, I'm hedging against inflation. Wonderful. And then if you have, like I've mentioned here before, if you're looking for short-term rental properties, which are a boom, they're a bonanza right now. They're still going crazy. They have, in certain parts of the city, they're going to allow more of those in the county, in county, and that has really spiked up those properties. If you're no HOA in the county, your home has gotten very valuable.
Yeah, totally. Because Summerlin, for sure, 100% does not allow short-term rentals.
No HOA, can't have the HOA.
Nope. And they require at least a year's lease.
Yeah.
You may find some in Summerlin, but they're not legal.
They're not legal. Exactly.
They're not legal. Or any HOA. Pretty much any area that has an HOA does not allow short-term rentals.
They're also technically not legal in the county yet. They're going to be. They've made it so, but now people are gearing up for that. So they're anticipating this and buying these properties and saying, okay. And the reason why is because they're doing it anyway. Now the HOAs have more leverage that they can go find these properties, and if people complain, they can make it hard on the people that are trying to rent out these short-term rentals.
Right.
The city and the county have a harder time without a program that's funded or they just, they got to have somebody overseeing this. So now what they've decided is that let's stop fighting it. Let's just create a program that allows people to do it.
Right.
And then now you got to pay us.
Yeah. But so define short term, and most terms for the county or the city, it's 30 days or more, right? Not under 30 days.
So this is what has changed. And that's what the big deal is. The Airbnb, which is short-term rental.
I mean, that's short term.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's what when I'm saying the county is about to do that in July.
Right.
That's what they're doing. Now it's a city program, so they say July. We'll see if it happens then or what kind of adjustments they have to make. But it's been approved. It's happening. So
perfect.
It was already happening in Henderson, by the way.
Yes.
Henderson already has that program.
Now we're going to go over tips, and then we're going to go over market forecasts. So my tips that I wrote down was, 1, start with your highest and best offer first and foremost. Now is not the time to get a deal. Now's not the time to bid 5,000 under, 10,000 under, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, you gotta look in certain price ranges. You can maybe find that overpriced. You start getting over $1 million. I do notice that there are some. It's just because they're overpriced, so you can try to go in there and knock them down off their price.
But anything
bring them down
600
to earth.
And under is pretty.
Yeah, easily, maybe even 800.
Yeah.
So you get up, but it's like I always say, as price rises, the air gets thinner. It's just like when you literally go up in the air gets thinner. There's less oxygen up there, and so that means there's less buyers. And if you're not competing in that price, even in the multi-million dollar price range, But
there are some listings that are on the market a day or two and had multiple offers.
No doubt about it.
Location, house, everything.
Yes. Everything has its caveat, and but in generally speaking, that might be where you could find something. I mean, I got somebody in escrow for about $1,050,000 or 1.15, but it was listed at 1.25. So and we got closing costs and so on and so forth. So
where's that at?
It's a custom home over. It's kind of like, what's the area? Kind of east of Las Vegas Boulevard, and
89112 or 89121.
No, it's not 891. It's more south.
Okay.
I'd give the address, but
yeah. That's right. All right. So then move quickly. Strategies that I notice, and as a listing agent, what I do is I usually list on a Thursday, have an open house possibly that weekend, and probably by Monday it's off the market.
Yeah.
So if you see it, And oftentimes what I notice in the agent to agent remarks is sellers will review offers on Monday. Please provide your highest and best offer.
Don't trust it.
Don't trust it.
Don't trust it.
True.
See, here's the thing. I'm going to say we have to caveat, because now we know that people are doing, well, they're doing the escalation clauses, and it may be actually that they can do that now, because they've now the agent can tell the buyer's agent what their highest offer is.
Right.
I will be absolutely using this for buyers, and what I'm going to do before I even write that offer up, what do we have to be at? Okay, we'll be at that plus 1,000.
Right.
I mean, that is what you have to expect if you have a highly competitive property.
So there's a caveat though. So now if they say till Monday and we're waiting till Sunday to put in an offer,
and they accept an offer out of nowhere,
right,
they do it. So you have to, this is crazy. I think this is losing people money when they do that.
Right.
Really, if you're, there is a reason to give a little time.
Right.
Hello. And I had a buyer that just got so frustrated. She actually took a break right now because this was what was happening.
Right.
And so, but now I'm going to call her up and be like, hey, you know what? I think we might be able to do this right now. It looks like,
but advice to listing agents, if you say something in the MLS, don't change it. Stick to what you say. If you're going to review offers on Sunday night or Monday, stick to it, because that's what I had on my listing is people were calling me on Sunday. So where is it at? Where is it at? So it's like a competition, and you feel bad for the buyers because, I work with a lot of buyers.
It's honestly, this is a lot of lazy agent stuff to me. Really, this is terrible, because I think that these agents, what they're doing is that they're getting overwhelmed. They're getting a lot of phone calls. They're getting a lot of, activity. And they're suddenly like, kind of, hey, seller, we got a great offer. We should take it right now. And it's like, you know what? Slow down. It's been a day and a half. Slow down.
I used to pride myself. I sold my listing in one day.
I mean, look, I'm just saying, here's what I'm saying. If you make the expectation that we're going to review offers on this day,
true,
then just stick with that.
Right.
Because it probably will make your seller more money. And it's probably not, even though you're going to have buyers, agents coming in going, we're going to only give you till this time. And if you don't accept it now, we're going to retract our offer. You got to go, hey, listen, this is what my seller wants to do, and we're going to wait on that. So you need to wait. Either that or give me that offer that says you'll pay $1,000 over any better offer, and you'll waive appraisal contingency. Right. You do all that, we're ready to go.
So isn't, though, with contracts, when you're writing an offer and you give them a deadline, even if they don't reject it, it's not answered. It's by not answering it, it's a rejection.
So technically you have to send a rejection, especially if the agent reaches back out and says, I want a formal rejection. It can be one thing if the agent sort of just lets it go. But I mean,
that's a lot if you got 20 offers, that's a lot of signatures to sign for your seller. 20 rejections.
It's such as life.
19 rejections.
We get paid well. So I'm just saying, look, the best thing to do is to go to most of the agents and say, can we keep your offers back up?
Right.
Most of them will say yes. If anybody says no,
but if they have not a good tracking system, how are they going to keep track of that? But anyway, if anyone says no,
yeah, well, this is what you have to deal with right now. Listen, you're selling the property in a weekend, so your job just got easier, but you have some repercussions that your job got a little harder on. Oh, boo-hoo.
Right.
We got to do this stuff. So if a buyer's agent wants to have a rejection, you got to give it to them. If they say my buyer wants that formal rejection, you got to give it to them.
Right.
How do I know that? Because I've had one complaint on me in 13 years, and that was part of the complaint. The other part was BS. They threw that out, but they did warn me that, hey, I need to send a rejection. It's a complicated story. I really wasn't in the wrong, but they just said, hey, make sure to send a rejection if you're asked about it. Ask for it. Right.
Okay. So let's get back to our tips. So move quickly. Have a lender that's fast moving and then can approve your loan in a very timely manner.
Yeah.
That's going to be key.
Huge. Lender must have their story together. Savvy listing agents will pick out and sense that there's an issue with your loan when they talk to that lender. If the lender's like, Wait, Chuck.
Who's that?
Chuck, who? Hold on. And they don't know. They really don't know what's up with your client, and then they
Right.
go to look at the numbers, and they're like, they're just kind of stuttering around. Your lender needs to be as sharp as your agent.
Yep.
So pick a good lender. Make sure they can communicate.
Another way is also make a bigger earnest money offer. So, for example, it's $10,000 earnest money. Maybe make a $20,000 earnest money offer.
Yeah, sure. I
Increase
mean,
your earnest
send
money.
in this market, you need to send every signal that you want this property and you want to be the one that does the best offer, and if it's partially that earnest money, a lot of times people clearly are giving up where the easy one is, hey, I'll just take whatever title company that the seller wants and recommends, even though typically the buyer has not typically, it is, buyer's supposed to have the right to the title company, but who's going to argue over that? You shouldn't.
Well, I want to go over that real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
It is a RESPA violation.
Sure is. When
a seller or listing agent dictates what title company could be used only on a finance deal. If it's a cash deal, it doesn't matter.
Cash deal, there's different.
But when it's financing, it's ultimately up to the buyer to choose what title company to use.
RESPA governs the lending.
Right.
So yes, buyer has the right to choose. Here's the thing: there are ways that a seller or a seller's agent can say things that are not like, hey, you have to do this.
Right.
Okay. If you say, hey, you have to do this, or you send a counter back that's, they come in with an offer and it's a different title company, you go send a counter back and it's got, everything this, and we also want this title company, you're actually doing a RESPA violation.
Right.
So,
or even if you just counter back with just the title company, that is a RESPA violation, and you can probably get fined with the division.
You'll
get a warning or what?
Yeah,
you got in trouble one time, right?
Well, this was part of that. This was the second half of that that complaint.
Right.
But I actually was not in violation.
Okay.
That was the BS part of it. Not to get too far into it, but it's basically that the offer was initially offered with the title company that I had said seller prefers this title company.
Right.
And then when we didn't reject the offer, they submitted the offer later. They were all fussy about they gave us a very short time frame. My seller was very, very nervous about 12 hours to respond. And they said
2 hours yesterday.
Yeah, if you don't respond in this time, they'll just they'll yank the offer. And I said, okay, well then you're making the offer null and void. I didn't think I had to respond back. Later in the week, they said, hey, can you send me a rejection? I said, okay. I didn't get right to it, but the following day they sent a new offer with a new title company.
Oh.
Okay. When I said, okay, the seller's ready to accept your offer. Is it okay if we still have the original title company? And they said, if that's it, let's get it going.
Right.
At the end of the deal, we closed the deal and I got a freaking complaint. Okay.
Right.
So that's what happened.
Right. So what does Danny say? What if you counter back with just escrow company and don't mention title?
Well, that is title.
Well, is it title and escrow the same?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, if I am working with a buyer and it states in the agent to agent remarks, seller or title work started with such and such company, or seller prefers such and such company, just to make it a smooth deal,
you might just say,
I'm just going to say fine. Yeah. I'm not going to.
Let's not make it an issue.
Exactly.
Right? It's small potatoes in the scheme of things. Yeah.
And if they don't mention any title companies, then obviously we'll put the buyer's preferred title company.
Yeah, because really what this comes down to is what the different costs in title companies, and they're minor in most cases. They're slim differences. So when you're already going above appraisal, when you're not asking for closing costs, when you're putting extra money and doing all this extra stuff,
right,
you're talking about. This is nickel and dime stuff. So let's not get into that. Right. Get your buyer the offer, and so if it's just title company, then easy enough.
Right. And my next advice is consider waiving or shortening contingencies. So there are 3 different types of contingencies when you're financing. You have the appraisal contingency, which is typically around 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
You have your loan contingency, which is typically 21 to 28 days. And then you have your due diligence period, which is 10 to 12 days. So I just got an offer. They shortened the due diligence to 5 days. They shorten, you shorten all these contingencies to make it look good so that if something does go wrong, it's not off the market too long.
Yep. Yeah. And with those investment offers, you'll find that they just waive the home inspection, the due diligence.
Oh, they weren't
outright.
doing that. They were extending it like 15 days on my investor offers. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the trick on those investor offers you got to be careful of too, because some of those investor offers want to get in. They want to beat you up on the inspection and start to take money back.
Yep.
Okay. That's been a trick that's been going on too. I want the investor that really knows they want that property, and the savvy ones know that there's probably not any problem in that home they couldn't handle by just viewing it.
Right.
So they'll go in and do a visual inspection of the home and just say, they won't even have an inspector come in, and they'll just say, cool, I know my crew can take care of everything here. Boom, let's get it done. Let's rock and roll.
Right. And that leads me to my next tip is be realistic about home inspections. When you do get a home inspection, that inspector is going to inspect every nook and cranny of the home, inside, outside, roof, everything, AC, electrical, plumbing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a report. Pick the ones that are safety issues or major issues, but don't be nitpicking every little thing, because the seller can be like, you know what? I'm going to nix this deal and go for the next one because I don't want to fix any of this crap.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have a sense of that. I think so. This, I never would discourage somebody to say, hey, you can't do these inspections.
Right.
Okay. But on the initial offer, we're probably just looking at showing the seller that we only want to do a general inspection with a home inspection.
Right.
Maybe if the house has a pool or spa, we want to get that inspected too, because the home inspector will do all that.
Right.
From there, your inspector will alert you to anything else, and you can get additional inspections done. There's no reason why you can't, as long as you do it in your due diligence, and the sellers, you get the seller to say, hey, we'll let him on in within that time. So, for example, the inspector does their little flyover with the drone, or if they're like the house that I'm in escrow with, they couldn't because it's too close to the airport. So they would, however they get their information on the roof, they find something wrong. It's now maybe time to get a roofer out, a licensed roofer to do that inspection further. Okay.
Right.
So those are the big things you're talking about. Hey, we found something with the electrical. We found something with the plumbing.
I'm just saying that don't ask for everything that the inspector finds.
Right. Yeah.
Be realistic about it. Get the things that are safety issues or that are major issues.
So, and the biggest reason to me to do that is not just so you don't bother the seller and make them want to get out of the deal. They still can't technically, but they is to go after the things that are truly important.
Right.
In that inspection report. So if you nickel and dime them, you're going to confuse the seller as to what is really important to you. And sometimes they'll go, look, this is it. So really, hey, these are the things, like spot the things that really should be done by the seller, really that you need credits for, and really go after those.
Right.
And don't go after the broken light switch or broken switch plate on the light,
All right, folks, we're going to do future predictions for spring 2022. However, before we get into that, leave a comment that we've had some viewers. Are you guys buyers currently getting into the market? Have you been going through the whole multiple offer situation and getting defeated or bought out by cash buyers? Leave a comment. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, we got into some detail today.
A
lot of detail.
Yeah, I thought it was important to do this video because, again, soon as January hit, man, it's just been crazy.
Well, I'm glad we did, because now I know, something that was in the contract.
I taught the expert here, the listing agent, Rob Howe, Rockstar Realtor. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen, I would not be surprised if that gets contested over time and is
I forgot, Neil Schwartz, who does a lot of the CE classes, has been in the business for years.
He had to have said something.
He did, but I can't remember exactly what he said.
He had to have editorialized on this.
He actually thought it was in favor of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, probably because he's seen so many problems with it that people are doing it anyway.
Right.
And this is kind of just what's happened. People are capitulating and just saying, you know what, they're doing it anyway. It's hard to govern. So let's just let them do it.
Exactly. Okay. Well, no one. Oh, here we go. Oof.
In 2023, huh? Man,
I can't even see what's going to happen tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding.
No, really, we have to keep it to about 90 to 120 days
A couple
at a time.
quarters worth.
Yeah, because it really is rapidly moving, and I believe that if we do start seeing changes, that's how quickly they're going to happen right now.
Right.
We got a vegan. Oh no, that's Las Vegas. Sorry.
You're a vegan and a vegan.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really a vegan.
You're plant-based. Plant-based.
Really,
okay.
technically.
Let's see. I'm a lifelong Las Vegan, hoping to upgrade in home, but have been outpaced at this point. I still have a glimmer of hope and reason I still watch your channel. Oh, thank you. Yes. Yeah. There is still hope.
It is tough for those of us that are local here, because the threshold is so much different for us. We've been used to what the prices were a couple of years ago, and suddenly bang, it's like things just went way up. So maybe you want to upgrade your home. You're living here, you've got a home. The one good thing is, if you bought it at the right time, right, maybe you have a bunch of equity, and if you want to upgrade, you can use that equity to virtually trade up. Right. That's what you're virtually doing. And then get a small loan. Yeah, and now even if you have a similar type of loan as far as price, right, on your current home, you're trading up in a home that you want. And as long as it's your primary residence, I'm a fan of that. You're right. Totally. Yeah. So, all right, no other questions. My prediction, which we had gotten into our previous market update, is that for spring of this year, the only reason the market is crazy the way it is with multiple offers is because of the lack of inventory. One, and two, people are fearing of the price interest rate increase. So people, I think, are like, I better hurry up and buy a home before those interest rates increase. Absolutely. Okay. Big part of it. Yeah. And that's my opinion. And the investor pressure. Well, yeah, investor pressure. But for the most part, yeah, the lack of inventory, if we don't get these sellers, if sellers don't come out and play, it's going to continue to be like this for all of spring season. Yes. And as I mentioned before, and I think we mentioned before, I think this is going to be the peak. Yes. The all-time peak, and that's it. I tend to agree with that. Very 80-20 right now. I'm just giving a little hedge in there because, it could cruise right through summer and we'd be astonished. But I mean, just prime example, last year, we never thought last year was going to be like it was. But I'm very, very much with that thought that we're about to listen, sellers. You want to sell your house for historic, the highs, most exactly ever. It's coming up. Yep. Right now. And that means not just your price that you get, but all the crud that you don't have to deal with from a buyer. Closing costs, worrying about appraisals, right? Fixing your house. Right now, spring 2022. Now, if you want to listen to the fall 2022, that we may be talking about 2023 or 2022. Yeah. There may be a whole different story. Yeah, I don't think it's going to take any kind of nosedive, but just but I think the peak is coming right now. The pressures that we have talked about, right? The reasons why people are pushing through right now, especially the interest rate, those could change by the end of the year. Those could change the market a little bit. Right. So ultimately, the one thing that's going to relieve a lot of this pressure is if the sellers come out and play and we get more listings on the market. And then, people, 400 used to be like, oh, that's a great number. It's hard to find anything in the 400,000 and under range. Yes. Oh my God. Even 500 and under. It's just so difficult right now. And I feel bad for our local buyers that live here, that it's hard to compete with the investors and out-of-state buyers that are coming cash heavy. Yep. Right. It is truly. Right. But if you have that, again, I would put it in someone's mind that if you have that equity, find out what kind of equity you have. You sell your property, you've now got a big chunk of change. You can go buy another property. It's not impossible to do that by any stretch. My clients that I just sold, went under contract, they bought it. They made 100,000. Well, after it's all said and done, they'll make 100,000 in equity. Yeah. In a year. Right. They only bought it last year. Oh, damn. In a year. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's how crazy it is.
Do you want to go over anything else?
Well, no, I think we're good. We did a lot here.
We did.
We're gonna have numbers coming out, folks. So we are gonna see if we've been right or wrong. You were right.
Right. Well, my prediction for January was it wasn't that major increase in median price. Your prediction was, what was your prediction?
We're gonna increase.
But how much do you think?
Oh, the
mine was like $1,000 or something.
I think I had said at least five. Yeah,
right.
I
think the median price for February, when we go over March, might
be 10.
Huge.
15.
Huge.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be huge.
Yeah,
at least 10. At least 10.
Yeah, I think so. This is an interesting question we'll get to real quick because Kim has a question. If you think the market is at a peak, how come all the investors are still buying like crazy? Well, there's a number of reasons for that. And part of that reason is that that first of all, when we say peak, it doesn't mean that we're like that everything's just going to stop.
Right.
We're just peak as far as
as high as we can go, and we can maintain and level out.
And the investors know that inflation is a hedge against that. If your money's just sitting in a bank, and I'm talking to these people who have lots of money in the bank, they'd rather put it into an asset right now that is going to move with inflation.
Right.
So that's why they're doing it. It's a big part of why they're doing it, at least the ones that are looking to hold and rent. Plus, they're getting return on that money from rents if they're renting it. And if you're doing short-term rental, like some of these
return on investment is through the roof.
The Airbnb short-term rentals, some of these Airbnbs are making so much money. I'm talking within 5 years, they're paying off the price of the home, even when they bought it at an exorbitant rate. Now, the risk there is that market could change drastically at any time. It really could. And there were reasons why it even became about, because the hotel became less, convenient for people, and then they had to search elsewhere. So there's different thought on this. But anyway, that's the general thing I would say is people are putting their money away from a bank where it just sits there and builds and loses money. Really, they're not making money on the, they're not making money in the banks.
For buying a property, they're making money off of renting it out.
Well, I'm saying the investor that might have these hedge fund investors, particular, where they have billions of dollars.
Right.
They're going to try to put that money into housing.
Totally. I think that's it.
Not only that, but those hedge fund investors are also they're borrowing some of that. They've borrowed a lot of that money, and they get to go and invest it for their investors. They're actually if there was a house of cards, it is actually within that game right there that I would be concerned about. I don't know if it'll ever come to a point where it actually affects everybody, but you could see if all of those people had a problem and felt squeezed and wanted to get out at once, it could affect the market.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and a lot of these Open Door and what's the other one? I always forget the name. Open Door, OfferPad.
OfferPad, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, a lot. They have a lot of listings.
Yes. So they want to converge on the market. They just have so much capital.
Right.
And they destroyed Zillow. Zillow tried to get into the game and they destroyed them.
Yeah. I actually had to put in offer. There's still some Zillow properties, GK properties. Mm-hmm. So powered by Zillow or whatever. So we had to put in an offer, and it was interesting because we had to go to a link, and they created their own RPA, or residential purchase agreement. Okay. And I'm like, is this even right? I mean, this is not a Galvar form.
They can do it. Yeah.
And, I think when you have these listing agents that are these big companies like that, they just don't represent the sellers in a good picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a different deals that are happening sometimes.
Yeah. Cause they have Redfin but then OfferPad, they have a brokerage too.
Well, they're sometimes buying the property from somebody and then allowing that person to they're doing this thing where they basically get a commission out of the sale of the property and allowing that person to be able to get the money and move and then sell the property.
So what did I say last year? The rich keep on getting richer and the poor keep on getting poorer. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, guys, folks, I will have a listing hitting the market tomorrow in Summerlin West at the Vistas Village. Stay tuned to my video that I created for it. It's going to be a single story home, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1713 square feet in the Vistas Village. We're going to list it, and you're going to like this listing price. $505,888.
All right, we like the eights. I'm gonna guess that you better contact her and see if you can see that property and get in on it before other people do, because otherwise you have no chance.
Well, I will be having an open house this weekend, and I
go.
will be making the decision, or the seller will be making the decision on Monday. So the open house is a Saturday, Sunday from 11 to 3. Stay tuned to my YouTube channel. I will post that listing tomorrow. Actually, I posted a premiere, so it's already on there. You can see some of the photos.
All right. Well,
any other questions? That's it. You guys weren't talkative today.
I think we got, I think these more detailed ones are like, people they want the crazy headline,
Well, this was a crazy headline. Competing with multiple offers.
Yeah.
And the Las Vegas market.
It needs to be something like Las Vegas is about to blow up and fall into the earth or something. We'll tell you why. That needs to be the headline.
So we will see you next week. What's today? The 2nd? Yeah, we will be doing a market update next week. When, I don't know. Just depends on when the numbers are released. Yep. But updating. Stay tuned to that. Thank you guys so much for watching. We love the interaction.
Yeah, rock on.
I was going to do your part and do it peacefully.
And we'll see you
on the next one. Bye, guys.